Syracuse men's basketball is trying to avoid missing the NCAA tournament for the third consecutive season. The last time the Orange weren't invited to the big dance in 3 straight years, Richard Nixon was president, The Godfather was topping box office charts, and Don McLean released American Pie. It's been a heck of a run over the last half century. SU has made 39 NCAA tournaments in that stretch, but it's in severe danger of missing it for the third year in a row for the first time since 1972 after today's 90-75 loss to Clemson down at the Little John Coliseum. How did the Tigers top the Orange for the second time this season? We'll answer that with highlights, analysis, and a whole lot more. It's Orange Press Pass, and it starts right now. Hey friends, welcome into Orange Press Pass inside our CitrusTV studio with Sean Dempsey and Griffin Marcy. I'm Liam Griffin. Syracuse falls to Clemson 90-75. The Orange dropped to 20-11 on the season, 11-9 in ACC play, and that is how they close out the regular season. Sean, I'll come to you first. This game, a lot of expectations, potential NCAA tournament booster. What are your first thoughts?
My first thought, Liam, is that the net rankings were right about Syracuse men's basketball. Syracuse currently sits 83rd in the net rankings, and the reason for it is just the inability to play against some of the top competition in college basketball, but also just tournament teams in general. Just too many bad losses throughout the season. Actually, 9 losses this season by 15 or more points, Griffin. Pretty crazy.
My first thoughts about this one is what a poetic ending to the regular season. Issues that have plagued this team all season long come to bat yet again today. They give up 40 points in the paint to a dominant Clemson front court, and your depth showed issues all night long, only played 7 guys. And how about Joe Girard's 16 second half points to put this season away for Syracuse? What a classic ending there for Syracuse.
Well, Joe Girard torched Syracuse the last time the Orange matched up with the Tigers. He did it again today. Let's see who else torched Syracuse today. Let's take a look at exactly how things went down today. Syracuse and Clemson in Death Valley. The Orange entered the game on a 4-game win streak, looking to make it 5, but it got off to a good start for SU. Starling had 0 points the last time these two met in the first half of that game. Gets an early 3 here to put SU up early, but Griffin, PJ Hall had his way early.
Had his way is an understatement. You see right there, 21 points in the first half, and they came from all over the place. He worked his way inside, and then he also did his work on the outside, took whatever SU gave him, and right here, give him a wide open 3.
Not even a contest, Griffin. Hall made his only 2 3-pointers of the game in that stretch. That gave the Tigers in a double-digit lead early. Starling trying to change that with a jumper here. That makes it 25-16. And Sean, Judah Mintz doing what he does best, drawing contact and getting to the rim.
Look at Judah Mintz right there getting the and one, just bringing Syracuse a little bit closer in this first half.
And that layup from Copeland, really tricky, brings the Orange within 2, but it all went downhill from there in the first half. A 12-2 Tiger run to end the frame, including this shot from Joe Girard. Malik Brown sagging off him, and then a few moments later, Chase Hunter finds Ian Shefflin. What a backdoor cut from Hunter. That put the Tigers up 12, 42-30 going into the locker room. Mintz was just 8 for 21 on the day, but hit a nifty jumper here to bring the Orange to within 8, 42-34. But Griffin, an old friend, comes back to bite SU.
I mean, Syracuse fans practically ran Joe Girard out of town, and today he just stepped up big time, really lived up to the name JG3.
Girard made 4 3-pointers on the day. Clemson up 13 with about 8 minutes to go. Syracuse in desperate need of a spark. Judah Mintz won't provide one, but Malik Brown, putback slam, had 12 points and 11 rebounds. But what a poetic ending this was. Girard and one from beyond the arc. He finished the day with 21 points. And then Clemson just easily breaks my favorite defense, the full court press. PJ Hall had 25 points. Then just a few seconds later, want to see me do it again? It's Chase Hunter this time. He had 17 and puts the icing on the cake. Clemson takes down Syracuse 90-75. The Orange dropped to 20-11. A 4-game win streak is snapped, and Sean, the big boys, Ian Shefflin and PJ Hall, dominated down low.
That is the biggest thing that stands out to me from this game. PJ Hall putting up 25 points, 21 in the first half, and Ian Shefflin getting 16 rebounds, as many points with rebounds. And also, Judah Mintz carrying the team on his back with 20 points, pretty impressive.
It was, and it showed Syracuse just couldn't compete on the inside. They didn't have the size to compete with the big bodies of PJ Hall and Ian Shefflin. They tried their best, especially Malik Brown, another double-double effort there, but you just don't have the manpower to compete with size like that.
Clemson's offense was red hot all day as the Orange missed out on another quad one victory. But Nick Luttrell did not miss out on the warm weather in Clemson. Nick, credit to you for getting out of Syracuse during this late winter, early spring season. So, little late in the game, J.J. Starling rolled his ankle at one point in the second half, got up initially and fought through it, but we didn't see him for the final 7:48 of the game. That's a relatively long stretch. So, any update on his status?
Yeah, that's right, Liam. When we talked to head coach Adrian Autry at the very end of the press conference, all I got was quote, he's fine. So not much information there from Coach Autry. But to answer your question, I don't know if things would have changed down the stretch for Syracuse in this game if J.J. Starling would have played those last 8 minutes or so. I think for J.J. Starling to have to excel in this game, obviously he would have had to make some three-pointers in the first half, which he didn't do as good of a job. But Syracuse didn't necessarily need him in the second half to get the win. They had lots of defensive struggles, and really defense was the issue for Syracuse tonight. So I don't know if Starling would have made a huge difference.
Hey, Nick, I'm curious down there in Clemson, what did you see, what was the biggest reason for P.J. Hall's really impressive first half?
Well, the first thing we have to say about P.J. Hall is we have to respect him as a player. This is a guy who was a preseason first team in the ACC, and this is a player who we knew was going to be the best player on the court tonight between Syracuse and Clemson, and he surely performed like that tonight. But with Syracuse playing in the 2-3 zone, that gave the ability for Hall to execute so well defensively and offensively. You saw that big block against Chris Bell in the first or second half, I can't even remember, but in the first half he just dominated that Syracuse defense. That's why they had to switch to the man-to-man defense in the second half.
Nick, Judah Mintz had 20 points today, a team high for Syracuse, but it took him 21 shots to get there. Was there like a certain reason for all this high volume from Mintz today?
I think it kind of goes back to what Liam was talking about with J.J. Starling. Without having Starling performing well in this game, that's why I think Judah Mintz, he at times has the tendency to play hero ball. We saw him do that multiple times throughout tonight's game. Pull up from the free throw line, miss multiple three-pointers, bad misses at that. And also, Chris Bell didn't play well tonight at all. I don't know if it's a lot of discredit to him, but it's a lot of more credit to the Clemson defense for scouting him so well and locking him down on the offensive end. So I think that's why Judah felt like he had to play hero ball, had so many shots. And yes, he was SU's leading scorer tonight, but he was an inefficient scorer for the Orange tonight.
Well, Syracuse struggled offensively all day, but I'll tell you what, Nick Luttrell not struggling to look good down in South Carolina. Nick, thanks so much for joining us, and safe travels home tomorrow. First break time here on Orange Press Basketball. When we get back, we will dive into the X's and O's of Syracuse's loss to Clemson. Bad offense, bad defense, particular players dominating for the Tigers. We'll have all the analysis after these messages. Welcome back to Orange Press Pass. Sean Dempsey, Griffin, Marcy, Liam Griffin here with you, breaking down the Orange's 90-75 loss to the Tigers of Clemson. 20-11 overall, 11-9 in ACC play is how SU finishes the regular season. And fellas, we saw a different look defensively for SU today. Going back to the old ways of Jim Boeheim, it was a majority zone defense, but when you have shooters that can shoot like Clemson does and a big team that can rebound the basketball, that is a tough recipe to stop with the zone, Sean.
Well, it's safe to say that the zone just wasn't very effective tonight whatsoever. I mean, there was just way too many uncontested three-point shots, whether it was by Joe Girard or even PJ Hall. Clemson shot 42% from beyond the arc today, and playing zone just is not going to help that whatsoever. There were just players out of position, especially when I remember a play during the game, Kyle Cuff was jumping in the air on the first look, and that just leaves the defense out of position. And man is just way more suitable, I think, going forward.
This is a team that has the right roster construction for the zone. That was the problem with last year's team. They didn't have the right players for the zone. And this year's team is set for the zone, but they just don't play it well. They don't communicate, they don't rotate over quickly enough, but they have the right size up top. You have the fast, athletic guards at the top of the key who can play the top of the zone, but they just don't execute it well, and it's a continuous problem for this team.
Yeah, to play an effective zone defense, Sean and Griffin, it's really a product of size. You didn't have that last year with Joe Girard, and when you lost Naheem McLeod, you kind of had that exposed a little bit. Just the 10th time this season, SU has given up 80-plus points. The 4th time an opponent for the Orange has crossed the 90-point threshold. Really just an ugly showing for the zone defense today. Not a great showing rebound-wise either. Clemson out-rebounded Syracuse by 8 today. Not a great look. Honestly, Sean, I should say Griffin, it felt like SU was getting out-rebounded by a lot more than the margin it actually was.
Well, it's another day that ends in Y, and it's another day that Syracuse got out-rebounded. They've been out-rebounded in 11 of their last 12 games. That's just simply not a recipe to success. And the fact is, they just don't have the size to deal with teams that, like today against Clemson, going against Ian Shefflin and PJ Hall. You don't have the bodies on the inside, whether that's Malik Brown or you don't have good other options on the outside besides Malik Brown to bang on the inside.
Well, like you mentioned, Griffin, it's really Ian Shefflin. He had 16 rebounds today, and I'm not really sure as a Syracuse fan what you expect more out of Malik Brown when you're covering him. He had 11 rebounds today, and that's what you should really be asking out of him for being an undersized big. And you need to see more from Starling. He only had 1 rebound today. Or even Justin Taylor, he only had 2 rebounds today. So those two guys really need to step up. Like you mentioned, it really was just Ian Shefflin taking over.
Ian Shefflin had 16 rebounds, PJ Hall had 7, and it was a bit of a size, not a bit, it was a size disadvantage for Syracuse today. You look at Malik Brown having to guard PJ Hall. Hall's got a few inches on Brown. And Ian Shefflin just absolutely bodying Quadir Copeland down low. Clemson just a much bigger team than SU, Griffin.
It is, and there's no reason that Quadir Copeland should be guarding a guy like Ian Shefflin on the inside. It comes down to the roster construction, and the fact is this team misses Naheem McLeod. He might not have been that successful out there this season, but he was another body that brought size to this team. And without Naheem McLeod and without Benny Williams, this team really struggles, and they don't have the size to compete on the inside, and it's going to be a struggle for the rest of the season, however long that may be.
You give all the credit in the world to Malik Brown for essentially guarding out of his position, but when you lose a 7'4" guy like Naheem McLeod going up against PJ Hall, one of the biggest, baddest bigs in the ACC, you're kind of asking for trouble. But what's not going to help at all, Chris Bell and Justin Taylor not doing a whole lot offensively. Taylor almost put up a Tony Snell stat line, had 2 rebounds, a personal foul, and a turnover in his 15 minutes of action tonight. Chris Bell, 7 points, but the majority of them came in garbage time. Sean, these are 2 players that have been maligned for their inconsistency this year, and in a game where Syracuse really needed them to show out, they did not.
Chris Bell really needs to do more from beyond the three-point line. That's where he excels. Also, Justin Taylor, too. He had 0 points tonight and 2 rebounds. I mean, Bell needed to get more involved and just take more shots. I know we mentioned earlier that it's really been Judah Mint's show so far this game. And this has just been the story with Justin Taylor the entire season. Not really able to find his fit with this team and not really able to provide more on the offensive side of the ball. And I really wanted to see him more crashing the glass against PJ Hall, especially, we mentioned the zone before, but that just puts players out of position, and I really would have liked to see Justin Taylor get more involved and be more physical.
The thing is, all 3 of us today had the same amount of points as Justin Taylor. That's just not something you can have from a starter and a guy who plays 15 minutes. But today, Justin Taylor didn't even take a single shot. If you're going to be a guy out there, you have to be a scoring threat. Look at that. All the zeros in the world up there. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goose eggs from Justin Taylor there. And if you don't have guys like Justin Taylor out there scoring, or Chris Bell, you cannot compete because your guards don't have room to work on the inside if your wings are not going to be helpful at all on the outside.
Yeah, that's really been the story of Syracuse's wing play this season. Chris Bell can go off for 30 points at a time like he did against Louisville or Colgate. Those particularly ring a bell. Then Justin Taylor, he was really starting to come on, played well against Notre Dame, Louisville, to name a few, and then just a zero burger tonight, Sean. You just hate to see it.
He's definitely had some bright spots this season, but tonight just simply wasn't one of them. And he's really out there to add physicality, defend players, and crash the glass, and it really just wasn't there tonight, sadly.
And without him out there tonight, I don't really necessarily blame him for this poor performance consistently over and over. He's playing out of, it's a tough matchup. He's out of position. I don't blame him for getting destroyed defensively. He's giving up at least 4 inches and probably 30 pounds on the inside. But that's a really tough ask for him, and he didn't come up to the task tonight.
Well, likable the guys as Chris Bell and Justin Taylor may be, they did not perform well enough to earn the Orange Press Pass Player of the Game. You have a lot of good candidates. PJ Hall had 25 points, Joe Girard had 21, Chase Hunter had 17 as well, but we're giving it to Ian Shefflin, the Clemson power forward who ate Syracuse alive down low today. 16 points and 16 rebounds on 5 of 5 shooting. The last time Shefflin went up against Syracuse back in early to mid-February, he had 13 points on 5 of 5 shooting. That's a perfect 10 for 10 over a 2-game stretch this season. Not too shabby at all. Made his only 3-pointer, had 3 assists, absolutely dominated Quadir Copeland down low. Ian Shefflin killed Syracuse last time, hit a dagger 3, but he was hitting daggers all day long today. 16 points, 16 rebounds. Ian Shefflin is your Orange Press Pass Player of the Game. A real high honor. Congratulations to you. Up against another break here on Orange Press Pass, but when we come back, it is game time. We are rolling out the red carpet, bringing out the lights. It is Pressy season on Orange Press Pass. We'll hand out some awards after the break. Put on your best dress or tux, get ready for the flash of the camera, and maybe prepare an acceptance speech because it is Pressy time. With Sean Dempsey, Griffin Marcy, Liam Griffin here with you today. Syracuse falls to Clemson 90-75, but the end of the season is upon us, the regular season that is. So we've got a few awards to hand out. This is going to be fun. I hope you guys have some sort of niche monologue before you hand out your awards, right?
Yeah.
I got a little something for you.
I got a little something.
Because all the big award shows, the Oscars, the
Golden Globes,
they tend to have a little bit of gravitas to them.
Well, as long as you don't go Will Smith on me if you don't.
That is a guarantee. That is a guarantee. I will not go Will Smith on you. Well, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. Judah Mintz might be the quote-unquote best player on this team, but does that make him the most impactful player on this team? Sean, basketball is about a lot more than just scoring points. So who gets the Pressy for the most impactful player on this team?
It's got to be Chris Bell, and there's a big reason for that of how good he was down the stretch of this season. He just became a very reliable shooter, which is what Syracuse needed, but also from beyond the three-point line. I know it wasn't shown today, Griffin. I'm sorry about that one, but I swear that he's been the most impactful player for Syracuse. He had 15 or more points in 6 of his last 8 games, which is extremely impressive. And he stepped up when Judah and JJ just weren't feeling it and made the offense less one-dimensional. You can see it up there. Look at Chris Bell from 2022 to 23, and now this season, doubling his points per game, still shooting a very high mark from the field in general, but also from over 40% from beyond the three-point line. I mean, that is very impressive. And then also adding stuff as well from rebounds and an assist percentage. So I think it has to be Chris Bell.
I can't quite give you Chris Bell. He's had his moments this year. You talked about there's been games where he scored 30 points. There's been games against NC State where he lights them up in the first half. But he hasn't been as consistent as my guy, Malik Brown. He's been dominant for this team so far this year, and he's had a really tough matchup. If this team was playing poker, he would have been dealt the worst hand. He would have been given 2-7 offsuit, and he would have folded it in right away. But the thing is, he couldn't do that because that's just not what you can do in college basketball.
Well, I mean, if Naheem McLeod wasn't there, you might say that he's the most impactful player because he's 7'4".
Naheem McLeod's not here.
All right. And the pressing goes to Malik Brown. I'm right there with you, Griffin. He's had to step up and guard players out of his position because he's, 6'8", 6'9", going up against 7-footers.
I really thought I had you there, LG.
I'm sorry. But we go from most impactful to most fun. You can put up all the stats in the world, but if you do it in a boring nature, that doesn't exactly make it enjoyable to watch, Griffin. So who's the most fun player on this team?
This isn't even a question. It's Quadir Copeland. There's no question about it. This guy's got everything in his bag. He does it all, and he's always got a smile on his face when he does it, and that's what's important. This is basketball. It's a team sport. It's a fun thing after all. We all like fun here, no?
No, we love fun. And Quadir Copeland definitely loves fun.
He's the embodiment of fun. He can do everything he can ask for. He can finish at the rim, adjust. He can do whatever you want, and you know what? He can throw it down too. That's always fun to watch. A nice little slam. And he can do it without a shoe. He's got no shoe on there, and he can still make the play, and he's got the 360 layup in his bag.
Ooh, that's a nice shot. I'm not going to lie, Griffin. But I'm going to go with a player who's also fun to watch and also a similar style of play as Quadir Copeland. I'm going to go with Judah Mintz. And that's just because of his ability to get to the basket. I know he doesn't do 360 layups like Quadir Copeland.
Not everyone can do it.
But almost. He creates contact, and he's just such a fun playmaker to watch on this team. We certainly saw that tonight with his 20 points. He really plays up to his competition, which I think is really important. He's shifty, he's crafty, he's a playmaker. We've heard that from Adrian Autry this season, and he was the main source of offense for this Syracuse team, and I definitely think he lived up to the hype this season, and he was the most fun to watch, at least for me.
I don't know about living up to the hype, but he was still one of the best players on this team this year. I'll give you that. Just not the most fun on this team.
I'll throw in a wild card candidate for you. Chris rings the bell. When he was hot, he was hot. LSU, Colgate, Cornell, Boston College. No guy can shoot it like Chris Bell can when he's hot. Jim Boeheim said it at one point, one of the best shooters he's ever coached. But between you two, the pressy goes to Quadir Copeland.
That's 2.
Yeah,
that's 2 out of 3. I'm pretty sure I win.
Man.
All right, last one, best moment of the season. It's been an up and down campaign, 20-11 overall, 11-9 in conference play to end the regular season, but it has come with its fair share of fun moments, hasn't it, Sean? So who's your candidate for the pressy for best moment of the year?
It has to be Syracuse's win over North Carolina, and it's not even close. I mean, it was Syracuse's biggest win of the entire season, and it was Syracuse's first win over a top 10 opponent since January of 2019. I mean, I wasn't even in school yet in 2019, but it was the first statement win for Adrian Autry, which I think is really, really important. It really turned the season around when things weren't going all too well, especially when Syracuse lost to North Carolina by 40 points, and look at that, storming the court. And it was just an energy that is unlike anything else that Syracuse saw this season and in a few years prior. That is my best moment for this season. Griffin?
So you heard me talk about Quadir Copeland earlier. I'm all aboard the Quadir Copeland train, and that's why my best moment of the season is the game-winning shot against Miami. Syracuse's first big conference win of the season is the first time all season that Syracuse had some students in the crowd for a conference game, and this game was electric. I mean, look at the crowd out there. There's more orange than you can see in there. You might as well call that the Orange Sea, and Quadir Copeland did his job all game. This was a fast-paced, up-and-down game. I was sitting courtside for this one. Incredible, but the final play, it wasn't so fast. Judah Mintz standing around, kicks to Quadir Copeland, and the crowd loves it, and that's why this was absolutely my favorite moment of the season.
I'll give you a writing candidate real quick. Bayheim Day, what a wonderful way to honor a legend. Ended up being a rather crazy game too, but to decide between you two, Sean, there are a few things I hate on planet Earth more than court storming. I'm not quite on Jay Billis level, but once again, I got to give the Pressy to the Quadir Copeland buzzer beater. Being at that game for Citrus TV, it was.
I got swept. Is there a broom anywhere around here?
There is one somewhere around here. There is one somewhere around. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go.
Oh, I'll take that.
Yeah, here you go.
Yeah, get me out of here.
Well, it's Griffin sweeps Sean away. We'll head to our last break. When we come back, we'll take a look around the NCAA and see what is ahead for SU. OPP wraps up after this. Almost time to say farewell, but not yet. Closing up shop on Orange Press Pass. Sean Dempsey, Griffin Marcy, Liam Griffin. Syracuse falls to Clemson 90-75, but that wasn't the only game around the NCAA today. We'll take a look at what else has been going on in the wide world of college basketball. Purdue pulling off a road win over Illinois, but the score that sticks out to me, fellas, how about Georgia Tech going to a place Syracuse lost in by 29 to Wake Forest, a bubble team in Wake Forest? That is a major blow to their tournament hopes.
Yeah, I think that might knock Wake Forest not off the bubble, but definitely in towards the first four out and the next four out. That is a must-win game for Wake Forest, and Georgia Tech coming in there making a big-time statement, big-time win.
Unless I'm mistaken, that is Wake Forest's first home loss of the season. But Griffin, Georgia eking out a win over Ole Miss, but how about North Carolina beating the living daylights out of Notre Dame?
That's a big-time win. Two teams Syracuse has played recently and both got the win over them. North Carolina up 33 and they win that game. Syracuse is up by 29 in that one, and they couldn't quite hold that final lead.
Notre Dame, not a team many want to play in the ACC tournament. As we look at the ACC standings, Irish still near the bottom. In fact, they're not even on this full screen. But SU drops from 4 to 7 with that defeat. Pending other results, the Orange could potentially finish as high as 5th, but as low as 8th.
It's really neck and neck in this middle of the pack of the ACC. UNC and Duke have kind of separated themselves, so it'll be interesting to see how it kind of shapes out going into the conference tournament.
I think it's going to be a really exciting week next week in the conference tournament. You never know what can happen. They can climb all the way to the top or fall all the way to the bottom.
But before that, you have Duke taking on Carolina on Saturday. Syracuse, the only team in the ACC that is not playing on Saturday. And with that, we head to our final thoughts for the final game of the regular season. A 90-75 loss to Clemson. Sean, take us home. What's your final thought?
My final thought is it's time to move on to next season. And I hate to be a Debbie Downer, guys. I really do. But a lot of positives are to be taken away from this season. It's the most conference wins SU has had since joining the ACC. 20 wins is a great accomplishment for head coach Adrian Autry. But with that being said, Syracuse needs to hit the transfer portal. They got to get a big man. They got to get more depth on the bench. And also focus on keeping what you have, right? Try try and convince Judah Mintz to come back for next season. Make sure you keep Malik Brown and really develop this team, because there is a 5-star player coming in next year called Donnie Freeman.
See, you're saying pretty negative, but I kind of agree with what you're saying. But my final thoughts is it's not over until it's over just yet. You still got March left to play, and you never know what can happen in the tournament. The tournament comes down to guard play, and you have 2 of the best guards in the conference when they play there well together.
Hey, a little birdie once told me if Syracuse wins out, it wins the national championship. You only have to win 10 games to do that, so there is, in fact, that window of opportunity Griffin just mentioned. Maybe you're not looking forward to next year quite yet. That does it for Orange Press Pass with Sean Dempsey and Griffin Marcy. I'm Liam Griffin. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We'll catch you next time.